Welcome. Today I'm going to show you what to do with this stuff. If you have read the title, then you know that I'm going to be showing you how to change the oil in your sport bike. First things first, let's start by taking off the lower belly fairing. Make sure you check your owner's manual, your shop manual, or the internet to see which fairing you have to take off. Some you have to take off the left, some you have to take off the right, some you have to take off both. In the case of the CBR, I only have to take off the right side. In this video, you may see me take off both. It's because I'm actually doing more than just an oil change at this time. Also, while you're in the book, don't forget to check how many little machine screws, how many clips, and especially those little plastic clips that you gotta remove. Those are a pain. And just a hint, always start with the lower bolts first. The books seem to forget to tell you this. If you start with the upper bolts on the fairing first, when you get down to the bottom, it's going to make it really difficult. Oil flows better when hot, so make sure we help it along by starting the bike and let it heat it up a little bit. Once she's up to temp, you're going to want to shut her down. Afterwards, go around the bike underneath and find the oil plug. The oil plug's going to be on the oil pan. The oil pan's going to be located underneath the engine, so it's going to be somewhere down there. If you're unsure as to which plug is what, check your owner's manual or shop manual or the internet. Somebody knows. In a CBR, it's on the bottom right hand side facing the front of the bike. You're going to want to remove that plug. Make sure you have an oil pan ready for the oil to drain into. Also, the engine was just running. That means the engine, the pipes, and the oil is still hot. Be cautious of that. And now we wait. This is only going to take a few minutes, so don't go too far. You're basically just waiting for all the oil to drain out of the engine. But there's a couple things you can check while you're waiting. One, the old crush washer. This sometimes gets stuck on the side of the oil pan, or on the oil plug itself, or it falls down into the oil that's coming out. Either way, you want to make sure that it's not stuck on the oil pan or stuck on the drain bolt. Those are replaceable. Every time you change the oil, you're going to want to replace that crush washer. So you want to make sure it's not stuck on either the oil pan or the plug. Second thing, check the condition of the oil. Yes, the oil is going to be dirty. You're doing an oil change. But you're going to want to check for metal in the oil or discoloration. If it's milky, then you have water or coolant. If there's metal flakes in it, then you have an even bigger problem that you have to worry about. Once the oil's all out, you're going to want to check the side of the oil pan where the bolt came out. You're going to want to check for any debris. You're going to want to wipe it clean. Make sure that you're basically sealing the bolt onto a nice clean surface to prevent leaks. You don't want to put a ton of oil in the bike just to find out that there's a slow leak, because now you've got to drain it all back out again. Once you have a clean surface, you're going to want to put the bolt in the hole. But first, remember that little crush washer I told you about? You're going to want to get a new one of those and put it on the bolt. Take the bolt, put it in the hole, hand tighten. I say hand tighten because those oil pan threads aren't the strongest. They can strip pretty easy, so you're going to want to make sure it goes in nice and easy. If you feel any resistance, back it out and put it back in by hand. Once it's flush to the side of the oil pan, then you want to look in the shop manual, find the torque settings, and torque it to spec. Me, I've been doing this for years, so I kind of have the whole feeling of the wrist type thing. A lot of people don't agree with that, but it's an oil pan plug. I'm not worried about it. Now it's time for the oil filter. A couple things to notice. One, I am doing other stuff to the bike, so I have the left fairing off. This is giving you a different view than if you were doing it normally. If you wanted to do it normally, you'd be going through the right side of the bike, not the left side. You can still get to the oil filter. It's not that big of a deal. The other thing to note, the engine might still be hot. Right now when I'm doing it, it's still pretty warm. You're going to want to make sure that you don't get burned, especially since your arm is going right up against the exhaust pipes. First thing is a step of precaution. First, you're going to want to cover the pipes with something. You don't want to be smoking like a banshee after a first oil change. So this is going to stop the oil that comes out of the filter upon removal from landing on the pipes and burning off. Once you're all set there, feel free to reach in and remove the filter. Again, be careful, things may be hot. Also, if you're having a hard time removing the filter by hand, you may need help from a tool such as an oil filter wrench or a filter end cap wrench. I think the end cap wrenches work very good in these tight spaces. I, however, lucked out and was able to get the filter out by hand. Before you install a new filter, check the mating seal on the block. You're going to want to make sure there's no debris there. Any debris can cause a leak, and like I told you before, you'd hate to fill this whole bike up with oil to have to pull something out and drain a ton of it out. Most debris can be removed with light sandpaper or an X-Acto blade, but be sure not to cut into the block. Next, you're going to want to prep your filter. First, take it out of whatever package it came out of. Then you're going to want to take fresh oil and fill it up a little bit. A little less than halfway to halfway works, especially if you're mounting it vertically. This is going to stop it from having a dry start. When you go to start it for the first time, it'll be a little bit primed to begin with. Also, before you install the filter, you're going to want to take some of that fresh oil on your finger and just rub it around the new seal quickly. What this is going to do is it's going to make it so the seal mates to the surface of the engine block a lot smoother. Once you're prepped, take the filter and reinstall it. Remember, the filter is only meant to be installed by hand. Only hand tight. No tools are to tighten the filter. Over tightening an oil filter can cause a leak. Now you're going to want to take the rag or tin foil or whatever that was covering your exhaust pipes and remove it. Then go in with a clean rag and wipe down any oil residue that may have dripped while you remove the filter. Now's the part you've been waiting for, where you add oil to the bike. Please note, check your owner's manual if you're unsure, but there's two things you need to know. What kind of oil you take and how much oil you take. In my case, my bike takes 3 quarts of 10W30. I choose full synthetic as well. Any oil that you choose, whether it be the OEM brand recommended, which in my case is Honda Pro, or an aftermarket, as long as it all meets the same spec as the OEM recommended, you're good to go. I'm using Honda Pro oil because my bike still has a warranty. If you still are under warranty, it may show a good sign of faith later on down the road should you run into a problem if they see that you've been using the factory oils all along. Once your oil cap's back on, take a look under your bike again for any leaks that might have come up. You're going to want to check your oil filter, and you're going to want to check the oil plug that you put on into the oil pan. Once your cap is back on, you're going to want to check your dipstick or your view window. Those are 2 different methods that are used. Mine uses a view window. Again, your operator's manual or your shop manual will be able to tell you which one your bike has if you are unsure. Either one will have 2 indications on it, one indicating a low level and one indicating a high level. Your level should be in between those somewhere. But please note, since we just filled this bike with oil and have not started it yet, it may be higher than the high level. This is because there is no oil circulating through the filter housing yet. If you need more oil, feel free to top it off. But if you're all set, we're going to start the bike. Please note that your oil light may come on momentarily and then shut off. If it shuts off and stays off, you're good. The reason for this is a lot of the oil passages that were in the bike are now drained of oil because you had removed the filter and the plug. So there's nothing in there. You got to give it a second to fill up. But you're basically just going to run the bike for 30 seconds to a minute just to get all those passageways filled. Once you shut off the bike, go back and check the oil level one more time. At this point, since you already ran the bike, the oil level should be in between those lower and upper markings. Now, while you're down there checking the oil, you just ran the bike. Double check your filter and your plug to see if there are any leaks. If there are no leaks, now you can put the fairings back on. Remember all the little nuts, bolts, and washers, and God knows how many plastic clips that they give you to put that in. Make sure they all go back into place and where they came from. Sometimes there's longer bolts and shorter bolts, and if you use the long ones and short ones in the wrong spot, it can cause the fairings not to sit properly. Once she's all buttoned up, you're good to ride. Until next time, guys, keep the rubber side down, and I'll catch you later.